AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Our host, Mark Kelly, brings you the leading minds in AI, sharing their story, their success, and their advice. Focusing on fast-tracking you to the top, AI in Action cuts through the hype to help you kickstart your data science career. To listen to the latest AI in Action podcast, head over to www.alldus.com/podcast or subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Podcasts.
In today's episode, my guest is Mike Tamir. Mike is the head of data science at Uber ATG. I had a chance to speak with Mike at ODSC in San Francisco recently, and in the show we'll talk about his learnings in applying deep learning to article embedding for fake news, emerging trends in AI and data science that excite him, and what advice he'd offer to those looking to enter the world of data science. You're listening to the AI in Action podcast. I'm your host, Mark Kelly. Today's guest is Mike Tamir from Uber ATG. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. Mike, tell me a little bit about your journey to data science, and later tell me a little bit about your talk today.
Yeah, so my journey to data science was, I guess I started in a time when data science was not actually a formal profession. I got my job offer and it said I was a data scientist, and I turned to my wife, I said, data scientist, what's that? So now it's a little bit more of a well-defined field, and there are more well-defined education programs around it, which I've been a part of helping to define. But the really short answer is that I just got really lucky and jumped into it from more of a physics background at the right time.
Yeah, so you did a PhD in physics?
Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, in actually philosophy of physics, from University of Pittsburgh. So it's a very technical program, but I was actually funded from the philosophy department, and then I got degrees in the physics and in the math departments as well. And sometimes I like to joke, I used to get my very generous graduate stipend, I would teach, every once in a while I would teach an ethics course, and we'd be teaching the trolley problem before anybody even dreamed of Uber, let alone self-driving Uber. So, that's why I got the job. I like to joke because I knew all about the trolley problem before they worried about it.
It's a pretty good problem. Tell us about being the head of data science at Uber ATG, and what does that actually involve?
Yeah, so we've got several different aspects to ATG. There's the car itself, right? The AV system. There's the marketplace, which is sort of like, Uber is a marketplace. It connects riders and drivers, and ultimately, the Uber ATG will connect riders and autonomous vehicles is the vision. And then there's also all the things that surrounds that, around safety, around simulation, around testing, and so data scientists in ATG really participate in each of those aspects.
Tell us a little bit about the talk today. So you spoke about applying deep learning to articles, embedding for fake news evaluation. What does that mean for people listening in, and what did the journey look like, and some of the challenges that you probably came and that you probably would have been aware of, and maybe some kind of new challenges that kind of caught you from surprise, and the importance of asking the right question.
Yeah. And that was that last one in particular was what really attracted me to the problem. Over the past 5 years, we've had a revolution in the ability to work with text. We can do things now that we just couldn't possibly have dreamed of doing, at least not in 2018, if you'd asked me in 2012. So that in itself is something that technology looking for a problem, right? But I think what really attracted me to the problem was that it felt like a couple years ago, really to where we started. A lot of the major players have been working and trying to solve this fake news problem, and it isn't really well defined, or hasn't been well defined. But one of the aspects to this is maybe trying to create an algorithmic truth detector, And that's been really, really difficult. That's been a hard problem to solve, and for good reason. One of the major reasons for that is, truth is hard. In order to train an algorithm to do the job of journalists, you need to somehow get this information of all of what the world is like and cross-reference that. And maybe you can do that with historical facts if you have a knowledge base, and you can sort of compare factoids of what's being collated, and you can extract that algorithmically with what's in your knowledge base. But that's going to be difficult to do with news, with new things, because those new things are not going to be in your knowledge base. This seemed like a problem that, with a little bit of coming at it from a slightly different angle, suddenly we're in a position to solve it. And
how did you come at it from that slightly different pivot, and how did you kind of work out that you needed to have that difference? Because a lot of people already would have went at it that different way.
Yeah. So what I was focusing on when we first started working on this is actually not thinking about it from the dimension of evaluating truth and falsity for all the reasons I just mentioned, but instead thinking about it from the human side of it. As humans, it's a pretty well studied phenomenon that humans don't react well. They actually they lose cognitive capacity when they're emotionally triggered in certain ways. And so if you're angry, if you're afraid, if you feel like you're short on time, your ability to think and reason about what you're reading actually decreases.
I can imagine. I'm just thinking back of all the bad decisions I've made in that context.
And you might think about if you've ever been in a heated debate with somebody, it actually becomes harder, and you end up maybe trying to push for. You stop thinking about it like a scientist.
Particularly when you're under time pressure to make a decision on something. Mm-hmm. You're just going with emotion because you just want the decision done, or you've got decision fatigue.
Or if you're angry about it.
Yeah.
And so the hypothesis, which was not, it was something that we really did need to validate. It wasn't a foregone conclusion. So we built simpler models in the beginning to actually validate this hypothesis, and then we've been working in the year and a half since to building more and more sophisticated versions of this until we trying to push those bounds. Was that maybe a good approach, or at least one part of a solution to fake news, is to approach it from detecting manipulation, trying to detect or see if an algorithm can detect when those emotional trigger phrasings are there, and maybe it's possible for an algorithm to actually sort through those distinctions, right? When is an article written in the style and the way that's making room for the reader to make their own decision with their full capacity, and when is it designed to encourage the reader to react?
And you say it so this comes off your tongue, but I'm guessing it probably wasn't that simple, kind of working through all those different challenges and the different ones that popped up. Was there any kind of major learns from going on that journey?
So there's certainly things that I think we benefited from by approaching this in the right way. So in the talk we just did, we gave a very complex, multi-layered, millions of parameter deep learning neural net, recurrent neural net architecture. That wasn't the place where we started, and I've learned from years of making mistakes, maybe that you really sort of second nature now, that you want to build the simplest thing possible and then iterate from there.
Yeah, because so many people don't start simple. Mm-hmm. It just gets complicated way too soon.
Yeah.
And then you're in this a big mess.
Yeah. And by doing that, you might think you're maybe you're wasting your time, right? You're building a model that you're then going to throw out. It turns out that sometimes you can actually reuse what you got from there, even if what you got from there is more than just what you learned. And so being able to figure out that it's worth pursuing with more sophisticated methods was valuable.
After you finished working on the problem, did you ever think of any other interesting use cases that you could apply this to?
Oh yeah, and I wouldn't say that we're finished. We're in in process. Definitely, we wanted to make sure to put that beta sticker up there. Maybe it's just even alpha. I don't know.
Depends on what mood you're in.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah. So I wouldn't say that we're finished, but different use cases. There are several that I'd like to see it. One might be just being able to detect what you're reading. So when I have my go-to sites for getting news and sources for getting news, but I also often, especially in social media world, you are often exposed to sources, authors, sites, domains that you're not familiar with and that you haven't vetted with years of building credibility, where the sources spent years building credibility in your judgment, and it's just so hard to know. I've often wanted to turn to the person next to me and be like, is this author for real? Is this a genuine bona fide one? Maybe I'll Google and see if they have a Wikipedia page, see if we can get information there. Maybe I'll look for other articles they've written. And so having a tool for the user, the end user, to kind of see, just do a quick filter, is this something that's trying to trying to present the facts in a way that that lets me make the decision or trying to manipulate me? That's one use case. That's maybe the main use case, actually.
Yeah.
Another one is fake news travels faster, there's studies, than real news. And so adding some friction, and this is something where I'd love to be able to add buttons where you can, if somebody posts something and you're not sure, you can kind of press a button and have Walt, the Fake or Fact AI, just check it and maybe post a reply. So that way anybody who wants to forward it is at least forwarding it with that full disclosure, like the nutrition facts, so to speak, of what they're reading included.
Yeah, because once it's serialized, everyone wants to kind of jump on just to, even if it's just an interesting story, even if it's not real, they're kind of like just want to find out. Mm-hmm. And then if you can actually stop that occurring, it just saves so much time and effort.
Or at least have the evaluation included with what's shared.
Yeah. You're actually very passionate about sharing very relevant content a lot, and anyone that would follow you on LinkedIn, for example, could see the following you would get and the positive feedback you get from the insightful comments or sharings that you have. How do you decipher who do you think is worthwhile sharing, or their content, or engaging, and keeping up to speed with the day job, but also reading and kind of looking what else is out in the market, because everything is changing so quickly?
Yeah, well, and you'll probably be able to detect. I don't really post 3 times a day. I actually buffer it up, and so usually when I have time, I will go through my store of articles that I want to read, and I'll read through them quickly. Some of them I study very carefully because they're complex and they deserve that attention. Some of them less so, and then that's the filtering mechanism I use. And then if I like it, I also share it, or even maybe sometimes I don't like it, but I think it's worth sharing.
Yeah, begrudgingly, but you think it's worth perspective on it. For data scientists in the world today, they're kind of making the journey. They're working on different data sets. They're coming in, and the role can be kind of made for glamorous, and sometimes they can do a lot of data janitor work and kind of getting data fit for purpose, and might necessarily get to work on the models that they read about and kind of have the environment that they really kind of aspire to. What kind of advice would you offer to them, or people making that transition or working in that area, particularly maybe from academia into industry?
Yeah, well, I can say from as someone who comes into to often define and build teams, or one of the first parts of the playbook, so to speak, is actually to look at the data and maybe invest most of your resources in data engineers versus data scientists the first year, or maybe even more than that. And that's going to be really valuable to the data scientists on the team, because you need to be able to do everything you can to pave the way for your team to be effective with the data. If you can't access it, then or maybe it's you need to do a lot of work in order to get it ready.
So those people are really kind of laying the pipes and building the foundation, and so that's the importance of that side of it.
Yes.
Is there any questions you think data scientists should probably ask before they go into a new role that is probably really kind of clarify with the employer in terms of the journey? Could probably save a lot of time and effort.
Yeah. So asking about the data. If you say, "Do you have data?" You'll hear. Maybe if it's a startup and they're really honest, maybe the answer you will hear a no. Often the first answer, it's like saying, "Is this a good company to work at?" The default's going to be yes. So I would not just ask, "Do you have data?" or one of these generic questions, but I'd ask as much as you can. Probably 4 or 5 questions deep before you're really going to get to the truth of it.
Is there anything that's particularly interesting to you in the current market in terms of the models that are happening, in terms of the applications and use case that you're thinking is pretty exciting?
Well, I continue, and maybe this is evident from the things I've been focusing on with my lab work, including the Fake Effect project, to be just fascinated by what we can do with text. And every year, I look back at what we as a community, what the machine learning community has accomplished throughout that year, and reliably astounded that we're able to make so much progress. I guess maybe my expectations have increased so much. I should be less astounded at the end of 2018, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's a hard one to know. Where do you see the autonomous vehicles hitting the road of San Fran? Do you see it in the next 3 years, 5 years? Is legislation going to stop us seeing it sooner?
So I can't really speak to that, but legislation is one part of it. Certainly, it would be nice to see more clarity for the industry on what the expectations are.
Okay. You're listening to AI Mentors. I'm speaking with Mike Tamir, Head of Data Science at Uber ATG. Mike, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Alldus offer an exec search program. Alldus can help you discover how data science and AI can transform your company. With our unrivaled network of C-suite executives and senior AI professionals, we offer retained search services across the US and Europe. For more information, contact mark@alldus.com. Get the Alldus advantage. Become a member of the Alldus community and enjoy some of the following: AI meetups. Once a month, our community gathers to listen to some of the leading experts in the world of data science and AI. Our speakers come from all over the world, including Dublin, Boston, and Frankfurt. We also have our AI mentors. Our experts will provide mentoring to Alldus members. And don't forget our AI in Action podcast. Each week we have guests from all over the world talking us through their education, career, and more. Become an Alldus member and get the Alldus advantage. For more information and to sign up for our newsletter, log on to www.alldus.com. That's www.alldus.com. Alldus International, empowering through AI.